Today we are joined by Karl Smith, one of the world's leading experts in rapid hypnotic intervention. Today we chat about Karl's unique style of hypnotic intervention and how he applies that to helping people with fibromyalgia. We also talk about the toxic environment that you can get in those fibro groups on social media. Typically of Karl, there is some colourful language. But if you have fibromyalgia or you know someone who has, then you really should watch this video. My name is Mark, this is Fibro Freedom Therapy. Please enjoy this interview with Karl Smith. So Karl, I think what I'd like to do is, can I start with just asking you about your journey, because you got into this journey through, well, you're known as an expert in PTSD, but that came about because of a serious accident. So could you just explain a bit about that, please?
Yeah, so the long story short is that I always teach people to have a hypnotic, not hypnotic journey, a hero's journey. Saying hypnosis too much in my life. A hero's journey. My hero's journey goes. I spent 12 years in the British Army, went to all the places that your holiday representative won't send you to. I then left the army, joined the police, and became a counter-terrorism firearms officer. And tactical trainer and did all of the stuff. So for 24 years of my life, 12 years in the army and 12 years in the police, I did all the roughy tufty alpha type jobs, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself. But in 2006, while I was a serving police officer, I was run over by a drunk driver, DUI, a young 17-year-old lad that had been on alcohol and copious amounts of intoxicants during the day. And the reason I say it like that is because YouTube algorithms pick up those words, by the way. Intoxicants, I'll just say intoxicants. And the key thing is that, yeah, he left me with severe injuries. Anyway, the long story short is that I had physical injuries. But when the physical injuries were fixed, I was left with mental problems, issues, as those, whoever's watching this now, problems, issues, whatever you want to call them this week. But the long story short is that as the drugs wore off from the physical side of it, then the emotional side started to kick off. And then that was when I started to realize that my previous traumas had started coming back to me. And, I had severe injuries to my legs and my arms and my back and stuff like that. And it took me a little while to rehabilitate. But when the emotional issues came to the surface, I was offered cognitive behavioral therapy and counseling, because you got to be mindful that in 2006 when this happened, mental health wasn't a fad then. Nowadays everyone's into mental health. When I was doing it back then, nobody knew what we were doing. It was bit part playing, really. I mean, don't get me wrong, we still had NLP and hypnosis around, but they weren't really welcomed back then. So I had CBT and counseling. That didn't work. And I just thought that was it, because I didn't know anything else. And then I got myself into a bit of mischief. A police officer from London came up and did what now I know is neuro-linguistic programming and hypnosis. And on that, he literally just changed a lot of things in me in a very short space of time. And that's not to say that there isn't a place for counselling or CBT in their own right. With the right person, they are a great thing. They are just not the modality for everybody. Back in 2006, it was everyone was being shoehorned into, you're going to counselling, you're having CBT. And especially within the police service, and I can probably talk for all the emergency services and the military, is that one of the key things there is that it's a tick box. We sent him to counselling, we sent him to CBT. It's not our problem anymore. That technically, that is where we are with this. There's not. I'm not going to polish it for anybody. That's the way.
I think it's still like that, Karl. Especially in the NHS. I think. It's
yeah. It's like people who go do these mental health. The mental. First aid courses and all that type of stuff. It's a tick box. It's a terrible course. I've done it. I've done all of the courses with it. It's a terrible course. In fact, I firmly believe the MHFA course causes more mental health problems than it does. I know people that have been on the course, were happy-go-lucky people, come off the course and become absolutely full of anxiety, depression, and they've come off with more problems than they went on with the
Yeah.
course with. But anyway, it's not a case of education. It's a case that they were happy and all of a sudden it got opened up. Anyway,
Mm.
go on a tangent. Long story short is I got into hypnosis and he gave me the hypnosis session. I then went away, trained with a guy called Jonathan Chase, who sadly passed away um, this year in 2026. He passed away, and he mentored me for a few years, and then I developed my own skill set, my own way, my own methodology, and now I've taught all the way around the world, literally. And I don't mean by Zoom either. I've actually been to and taught hypnosis and performed hypnosis in places like all over Europe, Nepal, um, India, where else? Australia, Hawaii, Los Angeles, Vegas, East Coast America. I've literally, all over the UK, so I've, and I always say this at any interview that I do, the worst day of my life then became the best day of my life
Yeah.
because, I wouldn't have had the lifestyle, the way that I am nowadays. And, some of the great things I've got in life if I hadn't been run over. So sometimes the worst things that happen to you can be the best things that happen.
Yes. And also you have created your own style, and I mean
Yep.
you very rapidly got well known throughout the UK and then the world, and it's probably because you have got a very unique, I'll say, rapid intervention style. Can you just explain a little bit more about that, Karl?
Well, when I first started out, and this is key for most people that are starting out in this profession. When I first started out, I thought you needed to fit in a pigeonhole, and what I mean by that is you either had to be Ericksonian or Elmanian. For those who don't know, Milton Erickson, very slow, ambiguous. Dave Ellman was very much straight into the punch and straight through, very direct. And I always found myself in between. And then I realized that hypnosis isn't about, and being a good hypnotist is not about certificates on a wall. It's about personality. And I learned that very quickly. If you're a personality with confidence, that's key to being a good hypnotist, not
Mm.
certificates. Not like your great certificates behind you, of course, they're amazing, by the way. But the thing is that what I'm saying is that is the key fundamental ingredient to being a good hypnotist is confidence and having a personality. Because you could be qualified through the wall and as boring as a damp dishcloth, or you could have no qualifications but have an enormous amount of confidence and amazing abilities. So it's horses for courses. People take you for personalities. um I'm very, 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 very direct in the way that I do things. I have my own style, my own way, and I firmly believe that that's the way it is. And if you look at Mike Mandel, Mike is very, very different to me. Me and Mike are very good friends. Anthony Jacquin, very different to me, but we still have the same things. James Tripp is another one as well. Sometimes,
Yes.
with James's work, I'm sitting there going, my head can't. I mean, don't get me wrong. Me and James are good friends, but the way that when he's working, I can't do that. It's just not my style. But it doesn't mean that all of us, by the way, aren't good friends. And I'm not being
Mm.
disrespectful in any way. I don't want anyone running off and saying, "Oh, Mike, Carl said this about you." Because I'd tell Mike to his face anyway. But no, I'm joking. But the thing is
I
that
interviewed Mike a couple about a month ago,
I did,
actually.
yeah. Mike, who? That's all I ever say. But yeah, Mike, at the end of the day, we're all very different characters. But the different thing is that we're all doing the same thing with just different personalities. Me,
Yes.
I'm the person that people come to when they've had the pink and fluffy and they don't get on with it. I'm the one that blows the fucking doors off, and literally my clients love it. And this is going to be really abnormal to some people, really, really out there for some. When people pay me, they pay me to push them and drive them. You can't have a background like mine, 12 years army, 12 years counter-terrorism police, and not have that drive, that push, that shove behind me. And
Yes.
let's get things done, right? Let's go for it. It's got, all that is blow the doors off. And that comes across in my work as well. And people love
Yeah.
it. I absolutely love it and it's no disrespect to those people that go out there and they talk about obsidian and they talk about fairies and elves and whatever else they're doing.
Mm.
It's just a case of some people don't fucking want that. And then you'll notice in the interview, as I start warming into it, I do start to swear. And that is part of me. That is part of where I am. I have celebrity clients who work with me because I tell them to fuck off.
Yeah.
That's whether people say, well, that's not very professional, and the fake organization accreditation company that I'm with wouldn't allow us to do that. That's why I don't join any of that shit, because
Yeah.
I get results. I'm very much a results focused,
Yeah.
not worried about what the fucking bullshit is in the background. And that's one of the key things that my clients, and that's why I'm so busy, because I have got that very, very, very different approach,
Well, it's
which is
such a wild, such a massive field, isn't it? Hypnosis, and
yeah.
you know, like as you said, people do try and put it into two camps, but and it's so much wider in that, and I feel I use a very big mixture of styles as well, and also
Yeah.
like Mike on the other interview, and I know you use EFT and other uh, you know, other techniques as well that we incorporate within hypnosis. So it's a lot bigger than what people realize.
See what people don't realize is that a lot of people go to a therapist to go get fixed. We don't fix anything, right? We don't fix anything. The client fixes it. The client knows
Yeah,
all the problems. They know all the issues. They know how to resolve it. They just need somebody to put a boot in and just show them where.
they're the
EFT,
expert.
yeah, emotional freedom techniques in itself was the first thing that I ever learned in 2007. Now, bearing in mind, I didn't come get qualified in hypnosis until a little bit later on. But EFT
Yeah.
was the first thing I did. I did my level 1 and my level 2 with, I can't remember, was that Amet or whatever it was then. But
Mm.
I went and did that. And actually, to this day, I still teach people EFT and I still teach my clients EFT. And the reason being is it gives them responsibility in a world that lacks responsibility, in clients, in therapists themselves. I teach my clients responsibility for their own actions, and I teach my therapists who I mentor responsibility for their own actions. And I get people go, well, I didn't get this video done, and blah blah blah, and it must be somebody else's fault. No, go fuck yourself. It's your problem. And then it's the same principle with your clients. Well, that thing didn't work. Did you do the homework I gave you? No, I didn't have time. You didn't
Yeah.
have time for 3 minutes to help yourself, but you could brush your fucking teeth. And that's one of the key things here. When you're working with people, is giving them the responsibility. That's when the change happens, when they take responsibility for their own actions and their own
Mm.
problems and not blame it on everybody else. When they take responsibility, that's when the change work happens. So going back to EFT is a brilliant tool to teach people responsibility, because what they'll do is, as a therapist, I'll teach them EFT, and when they come back to me and go, well, it didn't quite work, but and that's fair cop, because it may not work, but how did you get on with the homework I gave you, the tapping? Oh, I didn't bother. Oh, I didn't know.
Mm.
Bother. Oh, right. See, you can't be asked. You can't be bothered to sort your own shit out. You need somebody else to sort your shit out and shovel your shit and wipe your ass. And that is the way. That is the way that we've become. And we find that with a lot of people when they like to be badged. And I know when they're going on to something, and I don't want to sound disrespectful, but we are in a world that desires badges. Most
Yes.
people would know that. I'm ADHD through the roof, but I don't class myself as ADHD. I'm just fucking me. I don't worry about. I come from an era where we didn't need labels to get through.
Mm.
I work the other way to society, where people are desiring labels and desiring to be labeled and put into Facebook groups where they can all swim around in their own shit. I don't. I come away from that because I acknowledge my own things in life. But what I won't do is do that, because I
Yeah.
recognise that those labels can be demoralizing. Whereas that desire, this need to get labelled is there. I I'm very much back. I'm very much.
Well, actually, talking about labels, it's worth mentioning about with chronic illnesses and obviously fibromyalgia. What we're here to talk about today is that people can. It's almost like it becomes their identity, and we
Is there
obviously as
identity?
hypnotists we see that a lot, don't we? Where the symptoms become your identity, and once that happens, it's very hard for people to break free from that, because it's almost it feels is actually part of them, and it's even suggesting that you could break free from it.
Oh, it's
It
it's
could cause trauma.
yeah, one of the biggest things that I always combat, and especially in post trauma groups, is I'm a product. of my own making, and I removed post trauma from my life. But it's the same as fibro groups. It's the same as post trauma groups, anxiety groups. What happens is they've got this desire for a label. They go swimming over to the next Facebook group and they watch everybody vomit over each other. There's loads of vomit just flying out of them. Oh, today I had a bad day, and then all of a sudden everybody else is fucking coming in, and I've had a bad day. We've all had shit days, but I don't need to go to a Facebook group to reinforce it, to do it. A lot of people talk to me about hypnosis. Hypnosis is two things: good and bad. You've got good hypnosis. I will change. I will make this offer. I will do this. I can do this. I will be free of the past. I will do. That's powerful, positive hypnosis. Negative hypnosis is I'm always full of pain. I'm always full of headaches. I'm always full of this. I tried that. I can't be bothered anymore. That's negative hypnosis. If you tell yourself something good, you will become it. If you tell yourself something negative, you will become it, or be it.
Well, people get stuck on that loop, don't they? That negative self-dialogue, that narrative that they tell themselves, and it just goes round in a loop.
Yeah, well, I call it the plug hole, and it's the same as any instance. Once you start on the plug hole and you start spinning, it gets faster and faster and faster, and it's hold on, guys, scream if you want to go faster, and everyone screams as they go down, going faster. It's not until you sit there with somebody and say, look, stop doing what you're doing. Here's the plug. Put that in there. Let's stop it. And then start to build on it again until you put the plug in and stop hanging around all of those shitty groups that sit there wallowing around in their own vomit. Then guess what? You're still on the cycle. And until you recognize that, that's half of the problem. A lot of people are sick because they harbor onto other people's illnesses and problems and other things that are going on. And that's common nature. But until people listen to me like that, this half your viewers now will be like that. I'm not listening to this. I'm going to go to my fibro group or my post-trauma group and say nasty things about that man, instead of just owning up and going, I think I need to stop listening to fucking bullshit. And that's the way it is. And that's why the way I work, that's the way I do things. And, you do find that in post-trauma groups, because I look at things in a very, 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 very different way to most therapists. It may well be wrong, but I couldn't give a shit. But the thing is that when most therapists, they hone in. So somebody's saying that they want post-trauma, or they've got fibro or anything like that. So they go looking for the label to find out who they are, and that's brilliant. You found out you have these component parts, and that's brilliant. And then what happens is most therapists then hone in on the fibro. I don't. So most therapists start with the problem and work out, and then figure out the problems thereafter. Whereas I start with all of the problems and then come back to where we started. What I'm saying there is that most people's start point is my end point. I don't deal with fibro. I don't deal with trauma. I don't deal with any label that comes in. I deal with the person that sat in front of me. So, each fibro, each post-trauma, each anxiety person has the same criteria to tell them they've got it with the doctors, because the doctors need to we're in an age where the doctors have to do something, otherwise they're malfeasance in duty or neglect in duty or whatever it is this week. But the thing is that they have to give them that label, so then they can palm them off over to the specialist. Brilliant, get that. But on the same token, what it does do is it gives people that label to then push on. My objective is to work the other way, to find out how we got to this position. Most people, and I'd be interested, because you're going to be putting this on YouTube or Facebook, it's putting in the comments right now, is about most people with fibromyalgia are not lazy people.
No.
I have to say, and I'm going to come back to this in a moment because there's a key point about this. Most people with real fibromyalgia are not lazy people. They were very driven people who worked their asses off and then neglected themselves and went down and went down. And I'd be interested in the comments if that's you. Not you, Mark, but if that's you, because the key thing is that lots of people I know that have had fibromyalgia are high-end people that were bam, 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 or busy mums or busy in life.
Very boom and bust, literally just drive themselves to a breaking point.
Yeah. And then because then you've got, you've got those people there. Then you've got the fucking bone idle ones that call themselves fibromyalgia. Oh, I can't do anything because I've got fibromyalgia. And that's one of the key things there.
We will return to the video shortly, but first I just wanted to tell you about the Fibro Freedom Therapy online course. You see, I created a course for my own personal journey with fibromyalgia, as well as from my professional work as a hypnotherapist and an NLP coach. Through practical tools, science-based strategies, and mind-body techniques, it tackles the core challenges of pain, fatigue, fibro fog, poor sleep, and stress. It's your first step towards the life that you want to live. Also, if you are enjoying this video, please hit like, hit subscribe, and help me grow this channel as a free resource for those who have fibromyalgia. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of this video. Brings me really to, so I've got this method, or this model, I should say, called the Fibro symptom loop. And what this is really about is most specialists, or people that, especially in hypnotherapy and all other therapies, deal with fibromyalgia, only think of pain, just think of pain. But what the Fibro symptom loop that I've created shows that how there's many different symptoms, whether it's from whether it's bad quality sleep, whether it's fatigue, whether it's fibro fog or brain fog, and of course pain. But all these symptoms all interweave with each other, and they actually they all in a way drive each other as well. But the one symptom that's the biggest driver, the key driver of all of it, the main driver, is stress. And to me, unless you're dealing with the main driver, then it's you're not really taking off the snake's head.
What did I say a minute ago? Most therapists start over there with a label and work outwards. I work outwards.
Yeah.
When you look at it, especially with the way that I work content free, is the way that I look at this is that if you ask the subconscious, unconscious, monkey brain, whatever you want to call it this weekend, to just offer up all of the rubbish that's been happening in the background, what you'll do is you'll start to collapse it all the way around you. Like most, when I'm doing my teachings, and this will help a few of the people that are watching that have stayed on after that rant a minute ago. But if you look at your body if you're still here, say hello in the corner. But the thing is that if you look at your body as one big pressure cooker, you've got the fight, flight, freeze at the bottom, which is good. Fight, flight, freeze. I know there's form, but we'll worry about that another day. Fight, flight, freeze. Fight, do we verbally or physically fight things? Flight, do we run away? Freeze, do we curl into a ball? Most people that are watching this now have been through the fight, flight, freeze mechanism. Right, you can call it what you want, but you're either running away, you're either fighting something, or you're either curling into a ball. And in our pressure cooker, that forms a little bit at the bottom. Brilliant. Great stress. Love all that. Life hasn't been good to us. For any therapist out there who says, yeah, well, my client was 1,000 times better when they left me, you're talking shit, because life is never like that anyway. All we're doing, as a therapist, all we're doing is preparing our client for the next wave of shit. I'm really sorry, but that's all we do. All we do is we clear the pressure cooker, and all we're doing is we've got the fight, flight, freeze at the bottom, and it builds up, builds up, builds up. Now, some of this stuff that was at the very bottom years and years ago, we don't really need anymore, but it's still causing us a problem now. So when we push that out of the way, we drop it down, and we're left with a vacuum at the top. You're never going to get anybody to zero. You're never going to get anyone to the bottom of the pan. Well, not unless they're dead. But on the same token, all our job is about keeping that pressure cooker down and changing some of the stuff in the background to allow them to move forward. So when something does happen next time, the pressure cooker rises, but we've still got a vacuum, a bit of space at the top to work with. And then we clear out again. That's all we ever do, whether we go to a therapist, whether we go on holiday, whether we go do something that we really, really enjoy in our hobbies.
Well, of course, giving them the tools like EFT as well, that, afterwards to actually then manage it themselves.
It's Janet Thompson, who I used to work closely with, who used to do a lot of energy work. She said people brush their teeth on a rhythmic basis, on a daily basis. They brush their teeth, but they don't do their emotional stuff on a rhythmic basis either. And it should be in the morning.
Yeah.
First things, it should be, I can do this, I will do this, I can do this, I will do this. Even though even though I feel like this, I choose to feel happy. Even though just do it while you're doing your teeth as well. You can actually say it in your head. You don't even have to tap. You can just go, I can do this, I will do this, I can do this, I will do this. But the key thing is about you learning and understanding those techniques and getting those techniques into your life. So then you can take responsibility for your own actions. It goes back to the very beginning.
It's great. And I mean, what advice would you give?
It's about keeping the pressure cooker down. All the advice I'd give is about learning techniques, learning ideas that will keep the pressure cooker down. The pressure cooker is never going to be zero. I can tell you now, I reckon Gandhi's pressure cooker was never at zero either. I reckon he woke up some days and went, who did that porridge? Do you know what I mean? And got pissed off with somebody. It's bound to have happened. But on the same token, it's about understanding and being stoic about it and just saying, can I do anything about this? No. Right, what can I achieve today? Right, I can do this, this, and this. What can't I achieve? That. Off it goes. And the key thing about it then is about learning techniques and ideas that can help you, that can better your life. Coming out of all them Facebook groups. Oh my God, post-trauma groups. I was going to come on to this a minute ago. Post-trauma groups, they're just terrible because, I go in there and I show videos on my YouTube channel. On my YouTube channel, I must have about 40 or 50 videos, live sessions of me working with different people. And it doesn't matter how many videos are put up. People are like, nah, it's fake. Because you can make changes if you've got the right mindset. When people come to me, they're normally at their arse end. They're normally going, oh, I can't do this anymore. I can't do it anymore. Can't do something with it. And that's why. And you'll always find that people, one of the top tips I always say to people is come out of the Fibro groups, come out of the post-trauma groups, because you're all swimming in each other's visceral vomit. You're all just sitting there vomiting over each other. As one fucking throws up over them, they all start throwing up over each other. And then all of a sudden, you've got this whole whirlwind of rubbish going on. Coming out of those groups is really, really important. And learning self-help techniques and the belief that you can do it, that you can change. I was that person that was stuck on tramadol and pregabalin and many other drugs when I first started, and I didn't believe. And then all of a sudden I met EFT and I met hypnosis, and then I started to believe. And once you do that, once you start that pattern, once you start this whole change of pattern, ditch that shit off, ditch off the bad people. We've all got people in our lives where we just think, why don't you just fuck off, right? Because there's such a negative influence.
Yes.
The point being is separate yourself from them, start doing something new, and stop trying to get, it amazes me how many times people go, well, I have to go to the doctors and get my special tablets. No, you don't. Well, you do. Sorry, I'm not in a position to tell you shouldn't do it. But what I am, you're in a position where you can do something yourself. A lot of people just sit there. I know people, very good friends of mine, who just sit and go, I've got fibromyalgia. Oh, come in, we'll do a session. I'll do a session with you for free. No. It'll affect my benefits. That'll cause uproar in the fucking comments. Anyway, but the thing is that, I can't do that. And they sit there popping pills. No, the pills, no, it might affect the pills. Actually, it's the fucking pills that are probably causing you problems. That's the point. Some of the tablets, it's the same old thing about when you get a box of tablets, never read the instructions. Never read the side effects, not the instructions. Always read the instructions. Don't look at the side effects, because what does it say? 1 in 10 of you will get seizures. And they pop the pill. And I feel funny. They do it straight away. It's hypnosis. They've done it on themselves. It's about learning about doing it and working with your physician, your doctor, your GP, to understand that I would like to look at things holistically, but also I would like to be able to have these drugs, but then do it in a managed way. Because I'm sure your GP would appreciate that as well. And I'm not saying everyone is going to be 100%, but your lifestyle will change dramatically. Can change dramatically by just making fundamental changes, as in you're removing yourself from the visceral bile that's in some of the groups, making changes like learning things like emotional freedom techniques, going to a specialist who's walked the path. I'm very keen on therapists walking their own path with their own hero's journey, like I did. I work specifically in trauma, because that was my world. I come from that. I've done nothing but work with trauma during my life. But on the same token, so I can walk in those steps and I can sit back and go, fucking, yeah, that's the way I'd go with it, and then offer advice about how I changed my life. I'd go with somebody who's got experience with fibro, especially coming back under fibro. I would work with somebody who's had fibro, walked that path, and knows what it's like. It doesn't mean doesn't mean sit there and howl. Oh yeah, my shit was worse than your shit. That's not what I'm on about. What I'm on about is somebody who can appreciate and understand
That's
the hurdles.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I created Fibro Freedom Therapy, because I felt there wasn't really anything out there which could fully help people. Because, let's say, it's mainly focused on pain. That's what many people focus on. But with Fibro Freedom Therapy, it's very much focusing on, first of all, education. That is, I know most people think they know what fibromyalgia is, but it's a lot more complex, a lot more detail on what a lot of people realize. And also, it's a changing field all the time. There's new research that's coming out on a weekly basis. So it's education. With that, you get awareness. So awareness of what's actually happening in the body and mind. Because once you become aware of what's actually happening, then you can go to the next stage and actually start dealing with it. So you start managing it. So you don't, as you say, you don't have to be stuck with it. You don't have to be stuck in this sort of cesspool, as you put it.
There's many ways of making changes and changing. It's the same as post-trauma. I said, no, I've got post-trauma for life. You can't change it. Well, that's a belief system. You're never going to change anyone like that. The other thing as well is you're never going to change somebody who's on benefits, who doesn't want to come off benefits, because they're always going to be, well, I'm getting my house paid for. I've got an illness. I'm really sorry, right, folks, if that offends some of you, but that's the fucking truth. Unfortunately, it is. I come from a background where I've got worked with police officers, ambulance, fire service, who desperately use things like fibro to give people with real fibro bad names because they sit on it and go, well, I want to get my pension, and they get out early of the job because the job's shite at the moment, and they try and get out of the job by using those labels. And that's one of the sad things about it, is that you know, you've got to look at what the end goal is. If somebody says, no, I own this, that they're gone in the water. You just leave them. But when you get somebody with a twinkle in their eye and they go, no, I'd like to change this. I'd like to make it. I'd like to do something. That there, I will work with all day long. I sack clients now. I don't even bother. I just literally see people, phone call them, see how we're getting on, and then what we do then is we find out if they're the right person. If they say that they'll try and do something, I don't work with them. When they say they will do it, then I do. All right.
Brilliant. Well, thank you. And well, I think just to finish off the interview, just how can people find you? I mean, my recommendation would be your YouTube channel, because it's absolutely amazing. It's how I found you in the first place. But what would you say?
So if you go to Karl Smith, Karl with a K, with a kicking K, German. If I'm not German, but if you go for Karl Smith Hypnotherapy, then you can find me that way. Or you can go to my YouTube channel, which is Karl Smith Hypnosis, or at the moment it's Hypnotic Masterminds on there. But yeah, you can find me on my YouTube channel there anyway. If you go to my website, you'll find my YouTube channel.
I highly recommend that you do so. Thanks so much, Karl. It's been an incredible conversation. I really appreciate you jumping on this with me.
That's all right. I'm better looking than Mike Mandel anyway, so I don't care. I don't care.
Hey, no comments here. No comments.
Mike who? Mike who?
Thanks, Karl.
You're very welcome. Take care, folks.
Bye.